welcome to the stage my good friend Ryan from SeedInvest, Mark from WSGR, and Julie from Urban Innovation Fund. Her partner was on earlier today, Clara Brenner. And the format here is pretty simple. We are going to have 6 companies pitch us. We're going to give them candid feedback, and then we're going to pick a winner. We'll have each of you pick your winners. I think Ryan's not allowed to, because you're allowed to give feedback. Ryan, I think some congratulations. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Ryan, some congratulations are in order. You sold SeedInvest, correct?
Yeah, but you congratulated me last year. But
Wait, was that when you did?
We announced it last year. We signed the purchase agreement, but we closed it since I saw you last.
Gotcha. So congratulations on closing. How have things changed? You're working with my good friend Jeremy Allaire.
I am, yeah. You know, honestly, the first 6 months, it's about 6 months in since we've closed, it's been pretty similar. Jeremy has given us a lot of rope, and we're kind of running the business as is, except for with more resources and good people that are helping us. So it hasn't been a ton of change.
And for people who don't know, you run a funding platform. How do you describe it now? Because you do equity crowdfunding and accredited investor funding.
Yeah, I call them all, I mean, they're all equity crowdfunding to me, but we're the largest equity crowdfunding platform in the US. On one hand, we have about 285,000 investors on SeedInvest, about 48,000 are accredited, and basically we see about 1,000 companies that start an application on SeedInvest every month. We historically have accepted 1% of them, opened them up to our investor base, and match them together.
And how is that business going?
It's going well. We've grown quite a bit. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I remember when we had like 100 investors. So we're growing. We're doing more deals. We're doing a lot of larger deals now.
What's the median size deal in the last couple of months?
We were just talking about this backstage. The mean raise has been about 750,000 historically. The median is probably about 500,000. So we were talking about this before. We do a lot of 500,000 to $1.5 million type of seed rounds, and then we do probably 5-ish, sort of $5 to $20 million Series A's, and some of the early stage companies graduate to do the larger rounds.
Awesome. So the amount of deals, the amount of founders applying has skyrocketed, but you're keeping about the same number of people. So therefore, the dollar amounts are going up and the quality is going up. Seems like a good trend.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Okay. First up is GrowSquares. Zachary, are you ready?
I am.
We're going to put 3 minutes on the clock. This will be a fuller presentation format. And then Julie and Mark, I'm going to ask you to have a really tight question ready to go. And let's focus on the business more than the presentation. But of course, if there's something missing from the presentation, you can ask that. But a 3-minute trailer of the business is obviously going to leave many questions. Okay, 3, 2, go.
Hey guys, I'm Zachary. I'm the CEO of GrowSquares. I don't know how many of you guys garden, but gardening is a big pain in the butt, right? People have, about 70% of people fail in their gardens. And it's even among self-proclaimed experts, about 90% of people don't know the right plants for their own space. And it's pretty easy to see why, right? People have small spaces, limited time, nobody telling them what to do. Well, we're working on a solution that addresses that. And this is GrowSquares. It's a 2-part gardening system designed to be fun, productive, and more than anything else, incredibly easy to use. It's made up of a series of modular toppers that contain everything you need for one particular plant and an app to help you out along the way. So what does the app do? It's primarily designed so that it identifies the right plant for any one space. To do that, all you do is tell us the exact size and shape of your garden. Then, placing your phone down on the ground, it analyzes 31 different features of your particular space. So that's everything from your sunlight level, your wind, your weather, even the nutrient deficiency of your area on a building by building basis. All that does is not only identifies the right plants for that space, but it also tells us what particular minerals, bacteria, and nutrients to go into these square foot blocks. That what we do is we then aggregate that mass and wrap them in a nutrient-rich casing, and which we deliver to people directly to their space. So once upon delivery, all you do is take out the blocks, arrange them according to the way the app suggests, water them, and you're ready to go. Once that happens, our app, it translates from a recommendation engine to a synthetic sensor, where what we do is we tell you exactly when and how much to water. We're even able to tell you the relative yield of your plants. We're going into a pretty big space too, right? So right now, gardening in the 100 largest cities is a $4.6 billion industry. Interestingly enough, the fastest growing subsegments, millennials and young families, is where we've had the most traction. So we've proven our system works this last summer with 2 different beta tests, one in LA, one in Brooklyn, where I am. The coolest thing, there's a lot of numbers on these slides. The most important one is the reorder rate was over 80%, and the average user spent about $200 on their garden. We are raising our round right now. We have great partners like IKEA. We got a great team made up of data scientists, of engineers, of developers, all delivering a solution that's not only fun, but one that people love. I want to thank you for your time.
Okay, well done. Julie, you have a question?
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about your
Use the microphone. It will turn on. Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about your go-to-market? And do you see this being direct to consumer, or do you see a commercial angle here?
Yeah, so we've got about 25,000 people who've registered to use this. About 85% of them are either in New York or LA. Happens to coincide with where we started. Our market is really to go to these large cities. That's where we get the most data from each of the users, right? So people go give us feedback. We run these sort of multivariate tests on the performance. And then we kind of go from smaller cities because you have to do an analysis of each city that you're operating in for us to understand the exact parameters. And then from there, it's a marketing play.
Yeah. From a
Just go right into the microphone like this. Yeah.
From a size.
Mark, look at me. The microphone will work. You just have to use it because they keep missing the turning up the microphones in the back. Just talk right into it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Hey, from a size of market opportunity, obviously you're dealing with a lot of landlords and things. And so what kind of reaction are you getting from landlords? They really want people climbing on their roofs and watering things and causing potential leakage. So how are you dealing with those types of issues?
So landlords hasn't really been much of an issue. About 80% of the people that we've worked with in Los Angeles, at least, have been their backyards, right? So if it's in your backyard, you're not going to have a real issue. In terms of something on a balcony or something on a roof deck, nobody's really said anything. To be honest with you, the only feedback we've gotten from landlords, sort of a positive thing, because it replaces, if you're going to go and use the system, otherwise blacktop or tar, with an organic mass. So it's going to actually reduce your heating bills and reduce your cooling bills in the wintertime as well.
I remember there was I think a PBS series and a book series in the 90s called Square Foot Gardening. This is inspired by that, I take it?
Something like that. I actually haven't heard of the PBS series.
Yeah, but it was like a book and a PBS series. It was like a phenomenon in the 90s before phones and apps existed.
Oh, wow. I haven't come across that, but it's fueled by a lot of those same principles.
Yeah, and no sensors in the earth. I wonder why not. I've been pitched similar ideas. This one is incredibly well thought out. It's beautiful. I think it's super compelling. How many people here might be interested in trying something like this? Raise your hand if you might be interested in trying something like this. Now that's amazing because that is more than the number of people interested in gardening. So you can take that pro tip of, well, it's a sign of a great product. I mean this sincerely, when you can induce people to do something they previously didn't think they wanted to do. And that's because this product is so well constructed and so beautiful and so simple. It inspires people. It reminds me in a way of Robinhood or Uber or Calm, where people maybe didn't trade stocks, didn't meditate, or didn't use car service, but it was so elegant and beautiful, it compelled them to do so. So really, I mean, it is very well done. How many years have you been working on this?
So we're about 2.5 years in.
How much has been invested?
About $1 million have been invested. We're raising
Great.
about another $1 million or so.
Great.
And
how much revenue will you have in 2019?
2019 is about $150,000. Next year, we expect closer to around $7 million or so.
So you're going to go from, 100 to 7 million.
Yeah, so right now, if we could actually fulfill all of the orders that have been placed, that represents about $4 to $5 million worth of sales. We have a physical product, kind of a complex supply chain.
You had $4 million in orders and you only fulfilled 100,000 of them?
Yeah, it takes us right now about 2 months to produce the product, so we didn't have the lead time to respond.
Why does it take you 2 months to make this product?
Because we've got kind of a complex supply chain that needs to be kind of reduced in the amount of time. So what we do is we stock them, and then the personalization aspect is only about 10% of the actual amount of the product. That happens from kind of our end, and then we can deploy right then.
Let's give a big round of applause to Zachary from GrowSquares. Really a great presentation as well. I was very impressed. That's got to warm your heart, Ryan, when you see that good of a presentation, that beautiful of a product.
I thought the presentation was great. The only feedback I was going to give is one, I agree with Julie, like the roadmap I would have elaborated on a little bit more in terms of where they're going. And if you have 4 to 5 million of orders, I would hammer that home in my pitch. That's awesome.
Yeah, they left
That's
that
like
they left it in the dugout.
We just need money to fulfill demand. That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is DietID. Rachna. 3, 2, go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachna Govani, COO of DietID, a digital health SaaS solution powering the food as medicine revolution. Now, poor diet is the #1 cause of premature death, and diet-related diseases affect nearly half the US. But the crazy thing, less than 1% of us have really had our diet properly measured and managed in a clinical setting because most clinicians don't have the time, training, or tools to do so. But what does that 1% actually do? So let's meet Julie. She's a dietitian at a medical weight loss clinic. Typically, she spends about 15 minutes asking a litany of questions to her patients. Then her patient spends 2 hours filling out a paper-based Scantron survey detailing everything she's eaten in the last 3 months. Then Julie takes another 7 days to get an analysis where she can build a plan. And that whole process costs about $80 or more and takes days to complete. And obviously, and no surprise, most clinicians can't stomach such a cost. But even still, it's a $1.7 billion industry. So DietID takes Julie's 2 hours and days of manual work and collapses it into about a minute, unlocking the much larger $200 billion chronic disease management market. We integrate our digital solutions into hospital systems, digital therapeutics, and wellness companies, helping them tackle diet in a standard workflow, helping them save money and time, and more importantly, make additional money in reimbursable interactions. And so how did we do it? Well, we started by assembling the world's leaders in nutrition with Dr. David Katz from Yale at the helm, with support from leaders at Stanford, Tufts, and other institutions to build a new methodology that's focused on pattern recognition as opposed to detailed recall. And this solution allows us to really streamline the process, helping save 10x the time and the money getting somebody's diet and putting them on a journey. So let's see how this works. So in Julie's waiting room, let's start the demo. Oops. So in Julie's waiting room, are you guys able to see this? Yeah, so people will choose a series of images to determine what they eat and what they want to eat. And then in real time, we're able to generate a profile that details the nutrient intake, the deficiencies, and specifically what changes the patient needs to make. Then we generate a specific plan that this person needs to go on. And then as an upsell, we're able to turn this plan into a series of actionable digital coaching elements. So that's how the product works. And since launch in January of this year, we've booked over $400,000 in sales with leaders in health and wellness because of the elegance of the product, including Yale and Canyon Ranch and Anytime Fitness and a litany of other clients. So we know that tackling diet will become the standard of care because at the end of the day, diet is a vital sign. So if you believe in that same mission, follow us on SeedInvest, look for DietID. Thanks.
Okay, well done. Questions?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge with any kind of health application like this that is really who's going to pay. How are you going to get people to pay for it? Regulatory environment's really difficult. Insurance environment's very difficult. So how do you address that?
It's a great question. So I'll start with the first point about who's going to pay. So the end user does not pay. Our customers, the healthcare institutions, the wellness companies pay. They are currently the people who are spending the $1.7 billion are spending an inordinate amount of money and time doing some form of manual solution. So we're just coming in and saying, we do it cheaper, better, faster. For those that are not spending that money, we're coming in and saying, we can actually help you make more money because in certain cases, we can be reimbursed at a much higher rate than we charge. So we charge anywhere from $1 to $15 per end user per year. In some of these interactions, they're getting reimbursed $15 to $30 per instance. So it becomes a profit center for them. And then as far as adoption, the unique position that we have is that the leaders in the field, the people who are setting the trends of what's happening, are the ones on our team. They're on our advisory committee. So our ability to sell into this very kind of slow and antiquated space is very different because we're walking in at the front door as opposed to kind of wading through the mess like everybody else.
What are you guys finding in terms of engagement of the product? Because I think one of the challenges here, especially when you're doing B2B2C, is, you have somebody.
Please turn on microphone 1.
I think
yes, that's annoyance in my voice. Whoever's
I
covering the soundboard, you can hear it, they can't. Whoever's running the soundboard in there, can you please pay attention?
I think one of the challenges with the B2B2C model is that you have a different payer, and then ultimately the end user, the consumer, is somebody who needs to engage with the product. So how are you going to ensure that they actually engage and take actionable steps as a result?
Yeah, so one of the most unique things about our solution is that unlike other digital health tools in the diet space where you're sort of leaving it up to the kind of whims of the individual, many of our clients are actually integrating this as a part of their onboarding flow. So when you walk into a doctor's office or into Julie's office, it's the thing that the desk person hands you and says, take this assessment. So it becomes their standard of care. So at the very least, our solution is mandated in most of our deployments as opposed to relying on just the end user deciding when they're going to pick up a tool. In other instances, we are deploying where we are doing daily engagement with our digital coaching solution. And in that case, again, it's part of some sort of mandated engagement. So we don't have to worry about kind of the individual losing motivation.
So when they're onboarding, is it through an app that I would personally have on my phone if I were going into one of these centers?
So the technology is actually just a web-based app that can be integrated into a patient portal, or it can just sit on an iPad in the waiting room. So some of our clients will just have the iPad ready. The patient will fill out the forms, and then they'll say, okay, do this diet assessment before you walk into the doctor's office. So then they have all the data they need to have a consult, as opposed to spending 15 minutes asking you a bunch of questions and then no time for guidance.
And then in terms of actually making actionable decisions as a result, do I go back to the web-based app? Yep. Okay.
Yep, so you'll go back to the web-based app. If the client has chosen to offer a digital coaching solution, then yeah, they'll go back. And then what we do is we actually break down the behaviors somebody needs to take in an objective series of micro-challenges that are deployed on a day-to-day basis. So it is not asking the person to kind of change everything at once. It's really providing a sequential, personalized journey that's then supported by the clinician.
Okay, I think I saw 400K of sales. Over what time period did you guys generate that?
So the first sale closed, I think, officially in January.
So 400K in the last 6 months?
Yes.
Wow. Is that based on a few contracts? How does that sort of break out? And is it lumpy or is it repeatable?
So it's early days, so it is going to be a little bit lumpy. And our largest contract is in the 5-figure range. Our smallest contract is $600. It's about 22 clients. But what we're finding is that we are really hitting our sweet spot in terms of the newest sales being in that kind of 20-ish K range. Some of the early sales were much larger contracts because they are kind of investing. One of them actually is also an investor in DietID as a result.
Got it. And what does the pipeline look like today?
It's about 2.5 million.
Okay, I think it's a very strong presentation. It looks like a very strong product. Just alone doing the assessment and saving 15 minutes 1 million times a year is great. If you can save people money, that saves them time. So that's a win. And then you also apply some of this with coaching. Is that product out yet or no?
It's launching at the end of this month with
So it's
2
not out.
giant
Yeah.
clients that I can't tell you, but I will tell you.
They want to do the coaching, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Where I think the presentation was a little bit weak is it was unclear how you make money exactly. And so I would just own that. We have 8 pilots ranging from 600 to 50,000. And don't make the investors pull that out, because when we're pulling it out and trying to parse it and it's unclear, credibility goes down. Credibility goes up when you're upfront about it. When we have to be the detectives and figure it out. And then what you really want to get to in a business like this, I'll just leave you with this piece of advice, is a very clear, simple business model that works. And for you, I think it's a site license of $25,000 for up to 25,000 assessments, plus these other things, right? So come up with something really simple that investors can understand. If investors can't easily understand and repeat to other investors how you make money, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the range is $1 to $15 per person per year. That's the model.
Yeah. So just make
Yeah.
it clear in the
Yep.
deck, because it also was like 400K in bookings or to be booked, and so the way you phrased it also led to a little bit of when I watched the panelists, a little bit of, okay, what's real, what's not, and how does it work? You want to make that a slam dunk.
Thank you.
Giving yourself the freedom of saying, we have trials, we're experimenting with pricing. Then you don't have to apologize for it afterwards. We're experimenting with pricing, we have a per seat model, and we have a license model. The good news is, all of those, we're not doing free trials, all of those equal 400,000. So we're even getting paid during our experimental business model phase. Let's give her a big round of applause. Well
Thank
done,
you.
DietID. 2 for 2, very strong companies. Ryan, you're up in your game. These companies are getting tighter and tighter, huh?
It's my team. Like I told them when we did this probably 4 years ago for the first time, I knew every company inside and out beforehand. I really didn't
You're seeing
know
them when I see them?
I am pretty much.
That's a
so
great sign.
It's my team.
Okay, next up is Epilog. 3, 2, go.
I'm Michael Majaver, founder of Epilog. Our mission is to bring human quality vision to machines. We're working on self-driving cars right now. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So what you're seeing here is a car that's fully self-driving itself using our technology. It's a device that you see underneath the rear view mirror. The unique thing here is you can add it to any car. So if you have a late model car, you can just add it and it'll drive your car. So why are we doing this? People are spending about an hour a day commuting each day, and there's accidents and loss of life and property. We want to change that. We want to make driving safe and pleasant. So we created Sherpa, which is a windshield-mounted device that goes in your car. It will drive your car, and it uses artificial intelligence and special optics that we've developed, AK optics, to do that. It takes about 30 minutes to install in your car, and about $1,000 in cost. The way it works is it taps into your cruise control system, and it will basically apply gas, brakes, and steering, and we expect you to be alert at all times, but you can relax. So Sherpa also has deep learning, so with each drive it improves, and also it monitors you while you're driving, so it can give you feedback, and we expect it to lower your insurance premiums. The key breakthrough here is AK Vision that we've developed and patented. There are 8 patents already granted on this technology. And it works almost as good as a Waymo self-driving car, but not as expensive as a Tesla. So our business model is threefold. We sell the hardware. There's millions of cars that are on the road right now that can use it, and millions more being added to the road each day. We partnered with a company called Jabil. It's one of the world's largest manufacturers to build the product. They're also an investor in us. And we're working with automotive manufacturers like Honda and their suppliers like Continental in Germany. And we also have a software subscription model. Our team, so this is actually my 3rd startup, and I took my last company public. So we're very, very experienced in doing this type of technology. And Mark was working with Steve Jobs previously. And we have, a very experienced group doing the software and finance.
Okay, let's hear it for Michael. Well done. So to be clear, it's an 8K camera that is forward-facing.
Right.
And then what about side and rear view facing?
So if you have one that looks at the driver, that's just a normal camera, but the one looking out sees as good as a human. So normally, like in a Tesla, you end up with something like 5 cameras that are looking forward and 3 that look back. So we can tap into existing cameras that are looking back, and we have one really high quality camera that looks forward.
Okay, so I didn't understand your answer. What your system is one forward-facing camera,
Right.
mounted where?
Well, and also one that's looking at the driver.
And one that's looking at the driver.
Yes.
Why do you need to see the driver?
Because we want to make sure they're paying attention and
Okay.
they're not distracted.
So you have one looking forward. What happens if it changes lanes, or does this not do lane changes?
Right now, we're not doing lane changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is level 2.
It's level 3. Yeah.
Define level 3 for the audience.
So level 3 is basically completely hands off. You're still paying attention, but you don't have to like take over the car at it just whenever you want to, basically.
You have to be ready to take over.
You have to be ready to take over.
Got it.
And we do this essentially like I actually use it myself all the time. We really think the best use is extended traffic jams right now, but we're going to expand that to other
Great.
applications where you can ultimately you'll just put in where you
You
want to go.
showed in the picture a smartphone on the dashboard.
That's a display. Yeah, that's you'll have like a screen that looks back at you and provides information.
Is that
on
like
it.
an Android phone or something? It looked like a phone.
Right now we're using an Android phone,
Got
so all the intelligence is done in a
How many
different
cars
device.
are on the road? How many units are on the road today?
We don't have any units on the road,
Okay.
just the prototypes that we have.
When will you be selling this? When do you expect to hit market?
About 6 months. So
Okay.
It's fully developed, and we're just
Great.
raising money and SeedInvest to.
Awesome. Okay.
to-
Short answers are best.
What?
Good.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the status for starters, but I guess what regulatory requirements are there to actually implement this in 6 months?
Well, we don't do anything different than Tesla does, or Cruise, or any other company, or BMW. So it's the same. We're not doing anything more than what they are right now. So we're basically writing their tailcode as they allow more features on the Tesla. We allow more features on
It
our
wasn't
device.
exactly this question. He wanted to know what the regulation is.
What the regulations
What
are?
are the regulations? You have to get certified. What do you have to do? We understand that you're following Tesla and Cruise, obviously. What he's asking you is, what regulations do you have to do? Do you have to file with the government for providing this, et cetera?
Right, it's the National Highway and Transportation Agency regulations.
And have you already filed with them and gone through that
We're
process?
planning to do that, and also with the DMV to allow this for other people to use this. Yep.
Great.
Does it work?
I use it almost every day. It's fantastic. So the video that you shot was on the 101, and it's completely flawless. It has about 10 million miles of testing on it, and so that is a combination of what's NVIDIA has done. We use NVIDIA hardware, and so we're pretty much like writing the tailcode of other large companies. And we saw this big opportunity to bring this to the masses.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, so just quickly on the hardware and the cost of the hardware, that's got to be $100 or $1,000. It's got to be kind of at scale what you'd be able to sell it for. This sounds like it'd be pretty expensive to get from to $0 to or $10,000 a copy down to $1,000 a copy. How are you going to kind of finance that through?
Well, it's basically being done right now through NVIDIA hardware. So NVIDIA has spent $1 billion developing all the libraries and the hardware. So all we're adding is the 8K optics technology, and that's being done by Jabil, our partner. So that's how we find it. They invested in that part of it.
Okay, let's hear it for
Thank you.
Epilog. Well done. Okay, next up is Politiscope, NIM. And just one pro tip, when you're in a format like this, short, concise answers, listening deeply to what was asked and answering that first, unlike politicians.
Good timing.
Good timing. Here we go, Politiscope. And this is something actually we work on in the accelerator. We record people's answers and we actually transcribe them and then give a Google Doc back, and people see how they spoke 400 words and didn't answer the question, and they go, oh boy, I got to get better at this. Okay, 3, 2, go.
Shut up and dribble. Last year, Laura Ingraham famously suggested that LeBron James stay out of politics. She told him to shut up and dribble. My name is Nim Desai, and my co-founder, Walter Powell, was also a professional athlete who was told to stay out of politics. He didn't listen. And together, we put together an application called Politiscope to help you get engaged too. Nearly 80% of Americans now say that politics really matter. Politics has taken on an increased role in our society. Politicians, the rise of social media has turned politicians into celebrities, and celebrities have gotten political. More and more people want to get in the game and make an impact. But there's not a lot of information in one place to be able to facilitate those decisions. That's changed with Politiscope. We give you news about the issues that you care about. We profile politicians and their voting records. And we also break down bills in easy to understand language. We're essentially turning anybody with a mobile phone into their own political operative. So our markets, we take a small contribution on any political contributions made through our application. We're essentially giving you information and then allowing you to act on it. We take a cut of every one of those contributions, and we're also a B2C play. We're partnering with several organizations to provide data and a white label version of our product in order to drive their customers to our application. Besides Walt and I, we also have Israel Lopez on the team. He's our CEO. He's an attorney, startup vet, 3 different startups before now. And we also have Jackson White, who's a millennial politics contributor on various networks. So far, we've only released our beta, but on the strength of that, we've been able to generate some interest with not only media companies, but also savvy marketers in the social media space. To that end, Gary Vaynerchuk has come on board as our first advisor, and he's made an investment in Politiscope. And on the strength of our beta, we also signed our first customer, the Young Turks Network. TYT is #1 amongst all millennials across digital platforms, and they're integrating our app into their programming. And Walt and company are also appearing as regular contributors on the show. We'll also be licensing data so that they can use that on air. Obviously, next year is going to be a huge year for us domestically, but we've also got our sights on democracies around the world where compiling information and giving people the ability to make an impact are important. So, should Walt have stayed out of politics and played football? That's like telling an Uber driver to shut up and drive. It's like telling a chef to shut up and cook. We obviously disagree with that, and with Politiscope, we're going to empower every one of you.
Okay, let's hear it for Politiscope. Well done. Mark, why don't you lead us off? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I guess when I think of where this fits, somewhere between the far left and the far right, because you have echo chambers on that kind of people on those ends of the spectrum. So you're going after the raving moderate. So how do you attract people and people who tend to be less engaged in the political process? How do you get them excited about this? How do you get them to pay for it?
We're actually we're curating news from across the political spectrum, even on the ends. We basically feel that it's up to the user to determine, what sort of information that they act on. They're going to get we are anti-echo chamber in a sense. You're going to get news from individual sources that may not fall into your circle of influence. And I'm telling you from the data that we've already seen, people on the right that are reading articles from the left, they act on that in terms of their contributions more than they do the articles that they support. So regardless of where you stand politically, as long as the content made you feel something, positive or negative, we'll get you very quickly from that to an action.
I just had 2 questions. One, it might have been me, but I didn't have a crystal clear understanding of how it works. So maybe just like a little overview on that. And then second, any company in this space, I think about monetization challenges immediately. And one of the things you did is you mentioned like 3 different revenue streams really quickly, like white label product, data, and percent of contribution. So I guess maybe a little bit of info on both of those.
Sure. So what was the first question again?
A little bit more about how it actually works.
Yeah, so the way, when you first come into the site, you're going to get a news feed based on the issues that you care about. There's also a portion on the site that then gives you profiles about politicians that are currently in office and others that are running for office. Very quickly from there, it gives you the ability to either contribute to a candidate that you support or to the opposition of one that you oppose, and create support and opposition lists that then you can further share with your networks. That's how the system works. We take a cut off the contributions made initially, but we're also white labeling a version of this product to organizations that have a certain political bent that want to limit the information on the site to the ones that are important for their organizations.
And I saw 60K of ARR. Where does that come from? The
Yeah.
contributions?
So that's our first client, our first B2B client, the Young Turks.
Oh, okay, got it.
Can you talk a little bit about how you measure and think about engagement? Because I think one of the challenges in this space more broadly is, people agree that they want a source that's trusted, where they can get information, but it's translating the nice to have with a need to have, meaning, you want to engage, but do people really want a separate app to think about these things, or do they just want to look up on Facebook and easily see what their friends are saying?
Yeah, what we're really trying to do is be anti-bot, anti-troll. There's no commenting on the app. We're essentially turning all of you into your own political operative. We're giving you information across the political spectrum and very quickly trying to route you from that to an action. We're not telling you how to share that any further, and there is no commenting or trolling within the app itself.
So we talked earlier, I'm just gonna give a little sports casting since they asked my questions, about when you have more than 2 revenue streams, it comes across as a bit of a tell. Always have one revenue stream, maybe an experiment in the other. So that makes it look a little uncertain, so that was uncertain. And then also, one thing you can do really much better is giving an example. So the same amount of time you spent explaining what the product does and leading to a little bit of confusion, give an example. Meet Jason. Jason's trying to figure out which one of these presidential candidates he should pick. He's going to vote Democrat. He knows that. We show him a list of candidates. He isn't for socialism, so he doesn't want to forgive student loans, but he does want women to have the right to choose, and he does want people to get to parental leave. Which of these candidates fit that? Well, he swipes which ones he agrees with, and then it shows him a percentage of which one of these candidates. It turns out Elizabeth Warren, a little too socialist, Bernie Sanders, way too socialist, but he's actually a Kamala. Jason's a Kamala. And now you look at the audience, they understand it, they're nodding, they're laughing, but you didn't do that.
That's really
and
good.
And it's your I know it is. That's why I'm in this seat and you're behind the podium.
Come on board. We could use your help.
Exactly.
You need a job.
So just always as a founder, your job is to make the investor understand your product. Don't make us work. And that's why we always say examples matter. Let's give them a big round of applause.
When are you going into politics, by the way?
Okay. MayorJason.com. Okay.
When's
It's a
this
great
happening?
domain name, Mayor
When's this
Jason.
happening?
If you want to put any other prefixes in front of Jason.com, feel free, but I'm just going to say MayorJason.com, 220. Okay. 3, 2, go.
Hi, my name is Fran Meyer. I'm CEO and founder of BabyQuip. We are a baby gear rental marketplace and service. This is my 5th startup. My first was Match.com almost 25 years ago. My last was Trustee. I believe in building trusted brands. Here's the problem. And how many of you have experience traveling with babies and toddlers? And is it fun?
Nope.
No.
Especially when they pee on you on a flight.
So we all know what the problem is. And for millennials especially, who are today's parents, they're very comfortable with renting gear, and they're very comfortable with sharing economy. So our time is really great. In fact, we help families pack light and travel happy. We deliver strollers, car seats, cribs, even toys to a vacation rental, grandma's house, hotels. We'll even meet you at the airport. And our customers love us. In fact, Rachna, one of the people who was up here earlier, told me she had a wonderful experience here in San Francisco. We have an 82 Net Promoter Score. I know, Jason, you know that's world class. So how does it work? Basically, we match parents to providers. The providers have everything that a family might need in a given location. And what BabyQuip takes is about 24%, which is pretty high for a marketplace business. The key to this is we've got a network of 550 what we call quality providers. These are mostly moms. They deliver, set up, pick up the gear that they own. We do not own any inventory. They're vetted, they're insured, they're fanatical about quality and service and helping families have a great vacation. One thing is they're making really good money, second only to Airbnb at about over $500 a month. There's some seasonality, so they make about $700 in July, a little less in September. We are the national brand. Those 550 people are spread over 400 markets in the US and Canada. What I love is we've got big markets that you'd expect to be large, like Los Angeles and Hawaii and Orlando and New York, but we're big in Traverse City and Charlotte and Santa Fe, because every market's a market somebody goes home to. What's great about building a national brand and national market is now we're getting big partnerships. You could see the ones we have in the works, like these are the ones that we already have in place, Destination Hotels, Wyndham, HomeAway. Most of these will need more work to deliver more business for us, but we're talking to everybody, and I can tell you, everybody from retailers to hotels to vacation rental property managers, they want to have a better experience. Let me get to traction. We've been around 3 years. We've served over 30,000 orders, 4.7 million in GMV cumulatively, and this last quarter we did $800,000, which is 70% above last year. Thank you.
Okay, well done. Big round of applause. Questions? Ryan, you want to start?
Yeah, so I recently had a kid, and I have another hopefully coming in 3 weeks, and not
I
while I'm
have
in
some
San
gift
Francisco
cards.
here. Huh?
I'll give you a gift card.
Okay, I appreciate it. Team, obviously A+, NPS score, incredible. Question my wife would ask is, how her pushback would be being comfortable with sort of like other people's stuff and it being cleanliness, clean and everything like that, and how you get people kind of comfortable with that.
So we put everybody through a very detailed vetting process. We have liability insurance. We give them training on a learning management system, on quality, on safety, on cleanliness. We give them quizzes before we turn them on to make sure they understand that. And of course, we do, like Airbnb and everybody else, we do reviews. But I have to tell you, our community, and we have a very active community, they reinforce our values of cleanliness and safety. They're fanatical. They're moms serving other moms.
Other questions. So at the end, you kind of went through the traction a little bit quickly. So you said 80K of GMV in the last.
No, 800K in Q3.
In Q3, and then what does that equate to in terms of net revenue?
275,000, I think was
in Q3.
In
Okay.
Q2. We expect to do $3 million this year with a million in net revenue. What's added to our GMV take is insurance and admin fees. That gets us to about $1 million. Some affiliate relationships as well.
Got it. Thank you.
I noticed that one of your key goals with funding and expansion is to power to profitability, which you don't oftentimes see on slides. Can you talk about what you see as the future of the business?
What was the last question?
What do you see as the future of the business? Is it getting to profitability and not raising any more capital?
I think the idea is I don't have a competitor that's breathing down my neck. And given I don't have a competitor and we're growing pretty quickly, I'm really trying to manage the company in a very capital efficient way. We have 5 full-time employees. We're spending only enough money at the bottom part of the Google AdWord funnel. I think profitability is going to give me a lot more choices. And that's what I'm going for. I'm an experienced entrepreneur. I'd rather keep more than give it away. But a little extra money will get me there faster. If I get that Airbnb deal I'm looking for, or we decide to go international, that could change some things.
Great. It's interesting. You had a few of your partners were hotels. I would think that they would look at you almost as competition relative to an Airbnb or a HomeAway or something like that.
Yeah, well, we've typically gone to the Biltmore in Scottsdale. They run out of cribs. The Ritz here in San Francisco, they run out of cribs. But at best, hotels do cribs and they don't do it very well. I mean, families are not happy. The family will think there's a crib and there's not a crib. Or there's a playpen. Some babies don't sleep well in playpens. They only want cribs. And really, a big part of what we do is also toys for that 3-year-old and that 2-year-old. It's delightful for them to come to a room with new toys. We even decorate homes for the holidays or do Easter egg hunts and all kinds of things. So it's all that other stuff, baby monitors, all kinds of things that really fill in. Average order is about 160, has about 4 items.
This is an incredible presentation. Really shows that you've done this before. Very crisp. There were no questions that needed to be asked. It was well understood.
Thank you.
And it's a very clear path to profitability. It's a very clear path For you to get to 100 million in revenue, you just have to get to 400 million in top line GMV or so, which seems completely possible. And I think I'm less concerned about the cleaning and that kind of stuff, because having seen what happened with Airbnb and how wrong I was about that, I didn't have an opportunity to invest, but I just thought nobody would ever do that. It seems crazy. And then we use these services all the time when we travel, and the reviews matter. And we have an Airbnb property that we manage now, and we are literally begging people for reviews and care. And now I see from the other side of the table how much reviews matter. People, and that just makes these places really easy to use for consumers, especially people who don't want to buy stuff. So I think it's an amazing business. I think you're the perfect person to run it. There's great product. There's great founder product match here, right? People talk a little bit about product.
No pun intended. She founded Match.com.
Oh, right, Match, yeah. Thank you. It was an unconscious one. No, I didn't. But yeah, just really very impressive. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Thank you.
That's picture perfect there, yeah. All right, Seth, sorry you have to go after Fran, but let's see if you can bring it. 3, 2, go.
Hi, I'm Seth, the co-founder of Market Protocol. We're a project that's built on the Ethereum blockchain, and we created the Legos that anyone can use to design the next generation of derivatives that represent anything from Apple stock to yen or leveraged Bitcoin. Exchanges like Coinbase and Binance, they've built massive businesses trading traditional crypto assets, but there's still limited opportunities for trading futures and other derivatives. We built the core infrastructure to bring the $10 trillion derivatives industry to the blockchain. With Market Protocol, someone in the Philippines can invest in a US stock index. A person in a troubled financial geography can access a reserve currency, or a crypto trader, they can profit from the decline in the price of Bitcoin. Here's how it works. First, we built a series of applications that allow users to seamlessly interact with Market Protocol. Using our contract deployer, anyone can define a derivative asset. Next, traders, they deposit collateral to create these assets, which are then transferred directly to their crypto wallets. These derivatives, they track the value of another asset, like a stock, commodity, or cryptocurrency. From there, these digital assets, they're tradable on any exchange. Real-time statistics and real-time information about these trades can be viewed on MP tools. Also, users can browse other options for trading through our Contract Explorer. Revenue is generated every time someone creates a digital asset. We follow an assets under management model with a 0.5% fee charged on collateral deposited in our smart contracts. We launched 3 months ago, and last month was our most active month yet. We saw 185% volume increase from August and a 75% increase to July. We're projecting, given our current traction, that by the end of 2021, we'll see $500,000 a month in revenue. Collectively, we have 25 years of financial experience and the deep knowledge of the tools crypto traders need to be successful. We've been in the trenches and we've seen products succeed and fail. We're the best team to bring derivatives to the blockchain space. We've proven that we can launch a technical product and have traction out of the gates. Market Protocol was recently used to win the 2019 ETH Berlin Hackathon. We currently have 3 other teams that are building applications enabled by our framework. We're currently raising funds to launch and expand to other asset classes, like stocks and commodities. We want to grow and expand to other exchanges, and we want to get more teams using and building Market Protocol on Market Protocol. The crypto industry, it's going to be huge, and we built the tools to take us there. Thank you.
Okay, well done. You said you had 500,000, and you expect 500,000 in revenue or 500,000 in minted derivatives?
Right, so we expect 500,000 in revenue. The actual minted number would be much higher.
It would be 200 times higher.
Right, so we expect to generate 500,000 in revenue to have $100 million of assets being created.
Got it, because you get
on
50
a recurring
basis points.
basis.
Got it, yeah.
Correct.
So I take my 100 shares of Apple, and then I pledge them and make a derivative out of them, and
So
then put it on your system, correct?
Everything that Market Protocol does is synthetic and it's a derivative asset. So if you have Apple shares, you keep your Apple shares. So everything is done using crypto assets as collateral.
Got it. So I say I'm gonna put Bitcoin into the system, pretend it's Apple shares, or market against Apple shares, is how to think about it.
Yeah, it would be an Ethereum-based asset, but you would essentially agree to exchange the profit and loss based on how it would move had you owned those Apple shares.
So in a way, it's like InTrade or some of those old predictive markets.
Sure, it's a derivative, right?
Yeah.
So I guess
Could we also bet on like who's going to win the election?
Right. So
and that
Market
kind of stuff?
Protocol is an open framework that allows for the creation of any derivative asset. So if you want to create a contract that is like an InTrade or something and bet on the presidential election, that's possible within our framework.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think kind of going on Jason's comment or questions, it really sounds like there are a couple things. Regulatory, what does the regulatory environment look like? Also, giving people a tangible idea of what it is, an example. Here's what we're going to do and how we do it. And your presentation will help a lot in getting people to really understand, I think, better what you're doing.
Sure, I appreciate that. So just to touch very quickly on the regulatory environment, I mean, that is something that we spend a lot of time considering. We initially launched Market Protocol outside of the United States to sort of defer some of the considerations required for a US framework. In the United States, it really depends on what sort of assets we're using and deriving value from, and that will depend whether it falls under the SEC or CFTC's purview. There are a number of exemptions that we plan to leverage that should allow for Market Protocol to be accessible within a U.S. regulatory framework. But the short answer is we launched XUS to not worry about that right now.
But yeah, you are, I mean, depending on the types of assets, you're going to have to get regulated by the SEC or the CFTC or both. And then some of the examples you gave, especially Apple stock, I would assume you need to have these traded through either a national exchange or an ATS, probably facilitated by a broker-dealer, right?
For securities within the United States, they would have to be falling under that framework. One thing that's important to recognize and perhaps didn't come across in the presentation is Market Protocol is the framework to enable someone else to create these digital assets. So if you want to create a security and you want to bring it to the US, you need to be regulated by the appropriate governing body.
But if you guys are taking 50 basis points, don't you guys potentially get looped into that as well? Because that sounds like a brokerage trade to me.
Again, it sort of depends because some of these questions are still, I guess, to be answered.
That's fine.
Within a US
There's nothing
framework.
wrong. Yeah.
I don't want to pretend like I have the answer to everything.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So you launched 3 months ago, you said?
Yes.
So how did you get your initial traction in users?
We have about 8,000 people on our mailing list. We have an active community. One thing that's interesting about the crypto space is people are very interested in trying out new things, even if they aren't exactly what they expect. So we see a lot of grassroots traction. We go and speak at a lot of conferences. We host meetups. We partner with other projects to try to leverage their users to come on board our platform.
And do you see this as a B2C play?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you see this as a B2C play? Are you going direct to consumer?
I think it's actually both. We've developed and come up with some assets, but also what's really important for us is that we can bring other groups and projects to build on top of Market Protocol to enable some of the applications they want to build. So in that regard, it does become B2B. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Okay, well done. Let's bring all 6 founders up. I'll put $10,000 in the best company. Okay. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll put 10 dimes in. Come on
I
up,
think
guys.
I know which one you're investing in already.
All right, come on up. I'm going to ask everybody to pick their 3, 2, and 1, and then I'm going to give one of you $10K if you pass diligence. We got to do a little diligence, and then if not, I'll just go to the second choice, and if not, I'll go to the third choice, and if all 3 of you fail diligence, we got a problem. That won't happen. Okay. No, you all have to be exactly behind the podium, so just scooch in. And I'm joking, guys. That's just a joke. I'm just trolling you guys. Sorry. They all got the joke. You didn't, but that was incredible. Okay. Mark, tell us, you ready to give your number 3? I have my 3, 2, 1. Now, Ryan, these are your children, so you cannot vote. On which child you like the most? Just tell me, okay? In my ear, tell me which one's the best. Okay, she told me. He told me which one. Sorry. Okay, you ready for your number 3? Just your number 3. We're going to go 3, 2, 1. Who's got it? Who's your number 3 and why?
DietID. I thought it was a really interesting story. I think that gamifying and creating enthusiasm in the person once they've received their kind of diet regimen. Creating a way for them to be excited and enthusiastic about it and seeing results will make it more exciting. But it sounded like a really interesting.
Julie, who's your number 3? And briefly, why? Sorry, Mark.
This was really hard. My number 3 was market protocol. I thought it was really interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more. It made me want to dig in.
Okay. And by the way, I'm not a fan of imaginary money, but I found market protocol very compelling, and so congratulations on that. My number 3 was also DietID. I don't like the fact that you're lost in the wilderness about the revenue model, but if you can be lost in the wilderness and find 400,000 in revenue, my God, if you get focused, you could add a 0 or 2. Who's your number 2, Julie or Mark? Either one.
My number 2 was Epilog. I thought it was a really interesting concept. I would love to see how it actually works, but it was very compelling to me.
Okay, take it easy. Mark, you're next.
Yeah, mine was GrowSquares. I got hooked up originally on it being city thing, but I think it's available for anybody who's got a garden, and seems like really exciting, the sensors and things.
My number 2 was GrowSquares as well. I felt, I've always felt that exceptionally well crafted products never happens by accident. And it's very rare that an exceptionally well crafted 1.0, which this is, will get worse. It does happen. It very rarely happens. So just really kudos to you on a really amazing product. And I love the $4 million in backed up revenue. That's great. Who's your number 1?
My number 1 was BabyQuip. Very impressive background, really impressive traction.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, mine was BabyQuip as well. I like Jason, was dubious on Airbnb and things like that, and so I have to dispense with that kind of perspective, and it sounds like a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people learn that lesson from specifically Airbnb or even Sidecar and other of the precursors to the ride-sharing trend, which is, things provided by a company are not necessarily things that we provide more dangerous or scary than things we provide to each other. Like there's as much danger in getting stuff from a company or more in some cases. So I too picked BabyQuip, and I'll look forward, Fran, to writing you a check of $10,000 if you'll take it. All right, thanks again to Ryan. And we'll make a quick stage change. Thank you, well done.
Thank you.